Hi guys, I'm Daniel and I'm helping you to become a better RPA developer. In this tutorial, I just want to give you a quick update about how you can read and write Excel files. So, the first thing which I need to tell you is that Excel actually has a couple of formats. One is the legacy Excel, which is actually the well-known. It has this extension. It's a new extension. This one is from 2007 onwards, and actually is the recommended way how Excel writes a new file. And this too, it's named CSV. So UiPath is able to read and write each of these file formats, but there is a trick. Now the robot itself, it knows how to write and read natively CSV and this new format from 2007 onwards. If you just want to read and write this old format, which is the legacy one, you need to have on the computer that you're running the robot Microsoft Office installed, and to be especially the Microsoft Excel. Now this is a requirement for the computer that you are developing the robot and to each computer that you're going to publish, so that you're going to run the robot. And you may ask how you know that this is a legacy file and this one is actually a new one. I'm just going to show you. One way to identify is by this extension. Now, for some reason, you don't see this extension using this Windows Explorer. You're just going to open the file. And here is the thing, it says compatibility mode. I'm going to close, and if I open the new format, it will not write. Now, please keep in mind that when you give a new file, right now, it will create by default using the new file format. Great. Now with this established, I just want to show you a quick thing. So one thing which you need to have as a prerequisite, you need to have this install these dependencies, UiPath Excel activities. Now at the moment of recording, which by the way, it's the 2021, when you create a new project for a new process, it will install this dependency automatically. But if you don't, you need to have installed. Now, once installed, we go here in the activities. And let's say I'd like to read a range. So I'd like to read a range from that Excel file. And I'm going to explain in a moment what is a range. And as you can see, there are two read ranges. This one is under App Integration Excel, which as you guess, is the one which requires to have Microsoft Office installed. Now, if I'm going to drag and drop here, it will have this warning which will tell you activity it's only valid inside an Excel application scope. So I'm just gonna write Excel, and under I have this Excel application scope where I need to put my activity to have this disappearing. Now this Excel application scope, it's the main language that UiPath interacts with the Microsoft Excel. So if I go here in the workbook path, I can either read the new format and the legacy one. So for this case, because by the way, it's really depending on the way how you choose, I'm going to choose the legacy one. Personally, I only recommend to use this read range along with the Excel application scope only when you're reading the legacy format. So we are going here to the read range, and I need to have the output a data table. I'm going to specify a variable which will be of type data table, and I'm going to give a name DT. I'll have a headers. By the way, the first row, it will be read as headers. And to the range, I'm just going to leave it empty. And actually, I'm going to show you. So if I'm going to open this legacy, if I leave this empty or A1, it will read the entire worksheet. Now, you can say, let's say to start from this range or from this range. And if you're going to write here B1, then this Excel file, it will be written. And in our case, it will be only the column B1. If you're going to start B2, it will start with this Excel file and so on. So you can basically use it subsets of the original Excel file. So actually to be specific, I'm going to say A1. And let's say I'd like to, I don't know, have this result on the screen. So I'm going to say output data table. The text I'm going to create in a variable which I'll name text. And I'll get the data from the variable DT. And let's output this on the screen. I will use the log message with the log trace and let's say text. And to be verbose, let's write a file also. I'm going to choose the right range. By the way, you don't necessarily need to use this combination. You can read a range from an Excel file using this Excel application scope, and you can write without having the Excel application scope. So this is not necessarily mandatory. So now let's give a name to the file. I'm going to say output.xls6, and I'll read whatever it's in the data table. And I'm going to start with A1. And one thing which I like to tell you, by default, the read range, it has the add headers check, but the write range does not have the add headers check by default. Now this is needed in order to write the first row, the column names. So let's give a save and let's give a run. And if we're going back here, we do have this output.xls6 file. So if you just open, there will be basically no change. Now let's make a check. So let's say this B1, I like to read from this column. And right now, if I'm gonna give a run to the robot, so let's make a double check. Now, please keep in mind this write range does not override the entire data. So it doesn't override the entire data sheet here. No, it only overrides whatever column names they have there. And because it has just one column, and here I had the name, it was only overridden the second column. So what we have done here, we started to read from the B1, which we had name and age. And inside the data table, actually we can see, so let's give a run to the output. We can see that using this log message, we are having just the column age. So because we had only the column range, when we set to write range, we started to write to the A1, which is here, and we overridden the column name with the one age. But the old one, the old values, they were kept. Now that's a warning. If you want to avoid this problem, what I recommend is to delete previously the output file. So in this case, it was the output.xls6. Now, if in your case, this file, it's actually something which has multiple sheet names, well, delete that sheet name, which in this case, it's sheet 1. And let's create a new file. I'm just gonna give add sequence and let's say Excel. And for this, the flow will be kept. I'm just gonna keep the output and the log message, copy, and I'll use the read range, but this time I'm gonna choose from system file workbook. Hit a paste. So for the work range, I will choose the data. The new format is the only format which it's able to read this read range. I'm just gonna keep this empty. And I'll say I need a variable named dt, specify in the output data table and create a variable text. And I should be ready to go. Now, this time I don't need anymore an Excel application scope. So I can either write range. I'll choose the one from file workbook. And let's say I like the output .xls6, whatever it's in the data table. Great. So by the way, you can make any combination if you want. So for instance, I could use this Excel application scope to read the file and then write the range without the Excel application scope. So you can make this combination. It's not mandatory to make this pairing. As long as you have a data table valid, which by the way, this one is given by the output, you can do whatever you want using the data table in the memory. In this case, I'm just going to output on the screen, and then I will write a range here. So let's hit save and let's give a run. And we should have the same file with the same value. Now what happened here is because this first row was not specified using these column names, it was not overwritten until the end. We had 3 values, they were written here, but the first one should be the column names. And let's give a run. And now if I'm gonna double check in the output file, I should have this one correct. Okay, great. Now let's have a look how we can read and write CSV file. I'll go here in the activities and let's type here CSV. So I'll like to read from a CSV file. Now I do have two CSV files, one which has a semicolon as a separator and one with a comma. And for this particular example, I'm just going to choose the one with a semicolon. And I will write the result in a data table named DT. And let's copy the other one. I'm just going to copy this, hit a paste, and let's write a CSV file. So the path which I like to write is this output.csv. And I would like to read from the DT. Now, I need to make sure that these add headers is also checked to have on the first row on the column names. And I need to have, okay, and I'm missing here a variable, I think the text variable. I'm just gonna cut, hit Ctrl K and hit paste. And that should be all. Now, if I'm gonna run this robot, you're gonna notice something which you probably encounter and I need to tell you as a warning. So I have set this write CSV file with a comma. So if I'm going to open here, I do have with a semicolon. This is because the format was not paired. You need to make a pairing correctly. The source of the file was a semicolon, but here in the delimiter, I'm specifying a comma. Now, in order to read properly, I need to make this pairing. That's mandatory. Otherwise, you will make a mess. So let's make this pairing with a semicolon, and I'm gonna choose write CSV file. Let's say with a tab this one. So hit another run. Now this information you have only from the source of the data that is coming from. It should be a specification document. So I'm gonna save, and now the data is correctly it reads. So the tab I have here. Also, if you're gonna open this with Excel, it will not be read properly. That's because Excel is using a comma separated value as a delimiter. It doesn't know how to handle tab delimited. So this is how you read and write Excel files. If this video was helpful for you, hit that like, subscribe button. It really gives me a lot of motivations to continue to make this video. Now until the next time, see you soon.